Oh dear. I am so sorry, but I'm appreciative that you let me know there was no audio. So let me rewind everything I said. I might have hit the audio mute button inadvertently, but thank you very much for that. I appreciate you letting me know. Otherwise, I would have just been speaking to speaking into oblivion. So do me a favor, Jumoke, if you can, send an email to info@praizion.com. Info@praizion.com. Okay. If you're still on, Jumoke, I hope you've not I hope you've not left because I appreciate your kindness in letting me know there was no audio because I'd have probably kept on going for another 50 minutes. Let's see. Okay. Seems like I'm off mute now, so thank you very much. All right, so let's rewind. It's a very good example of how to not run a webinar. Make sure that people can hear you first and make sure you're off mute. Okay, so welcome once again. Sincere apologies for having gone through all that and you didn't even hear what I was saying, but I was saying that the PMI-ACP exam is very mindset driven. You have to really tap into that mindset of agility. And I also said the real value from the ACP comes in the training and the instruction. So just go for a higher end quality course where you can have some interaction with the instructor. There's no point taking the ACP exam if you haven't had great instruction. Not because you won't pass it, but because it's an experience that you want to add value to your agile game. See, there's some people who may just take the exam like I did. I passed it, you know, but at the end of the day, it wasn't the best use of time. I should have probably spent more time in the instruction with an instructor like my buddy Roy, who eventually coached me after I got certified. So I'm fortunate I got that instruction. Otherwise, the ACP may not have meant as much because it's not like the PMP that once you get it, everyone worships the PMP, at least in the job space. In this world of ACP, you could be an ACP and nobody would care on the job boards. Because if you go to Monster or Dice or Career Builder, nobody really cares about the ACP very much. They do care about the CSM and the CSP, but PMI ACP is marginal. So I'm not knocking the ACP because I am an ACP, but I'm just giving you some insights to the fact that if you do not have the stellar instruction, it's really no use because you could be certified and it won't mean much. You may go away with all the preconceived, not very well seasoned ideas. So I recommend if you are coming on a program, look for one such as the one on agileprinciple.com. If you have any questions or there's any doubts, at least you know they're going to be addressed, they're going to be tackled. All right. Good deal. All right. NC Worker, welcome. As always, thank you for jumping into these conversations as you always do. Very good to see you. Thank you. And I know that a lot of my friends on the East Coast, they're already tapped out, they're already gone to bed, and rightfully so. In fact, I have a meeting in the next 20 minutes. So I have to get my skates on and be very quick here. But if you have any questions about the ACP exam or anything about Agile, it's always a good time to put it in the chat. Okay, so once again, I want to say thank you to Jumoke for saying, hey, there's no audio. That was very kind because she didn't have to. You see, in the world of Agile, it's all about team sport. Now that someone has jumped in as a great team member to help me out, I can now add value to everyone else by turning on my mic so everybody can hear me. So before that very valuable contribution from Jumoke, I was talking about the exam and I wanted to highlight what is required. So, the educational background, at least high school diploma, and then you need 28 hours of formal training in agile practices. 21 hours are going to be accepted until the past. Now it's 28. So the instruction that you get in agile, it is better, it had better be solid. You need 2 years of agile experience in the past 5 years. If you're from a GAC accredited program, 1 year of agile experience, and 1 year of agile experience and active third party agile certification, current and earned more than a year ago, will also qualify. Or if you have an active PMP certification. So, as opposed to you needing all those experience hours, the PMI have given you many ors, many outs. So, if you have a PMP and you have 28 hours of education in Agile, then this makes it more appealing for the PMPs. Okay? Any questions? Feel free to put the questions in the chat and I'll get to them as soon as possible. So that was a piece I hadn't talked about prior. And now this piece, you have 100 questions that are scored, 20 questions that are not, a total of 120, and you got 3 hours. On the PMP exam, you got 3 hours, 50 minutes. On this exam, you got 3 hours. But you have 60 less questions. Nonetheless, you have to be very quick. You'll be given a break, 10-minute break after 60 questions. Um, don't go on to part two without taking your break, as some people have done in the past by accident. So I would recommend reading this outline, and I put the outline in the chat. For those of you that didn't see the outline, I'm going to put it in the chat again. I think I put it in the chat the first time I was on. So let's grab it and I'll put it in the chat for you. All right. So this outline is pretty much the A to Z for your ACP exam, those of you who are thinking of doing it. And I'm going to go over the ingredients of this exam. When I took my exam, like I said, it was very mindset driven. These days, it has gone a little bit on the technical side of Agile. But if you go over all the contents, there's no reason why you shouldn't pass it, especially if you've got great instruction. So if you're looking to do this, I would recommend going to agileprinciple.com. Agileprinciple.com is our site where you can get a very quick immersion for the ACP exam. So if nothing else, even if you've been for training elsewhere, I would recommend that. And we also have a certification that goes with the training. So if you go over the training online on your own and take our final exam, you will get the Praizion ACN certification, which is Agile Core Navigator, which helps you to navigate transformations in firms of an agile nature. But it also prepares you for the ACP exam. So it's like, getting two badges in one. The ACN Agile Core Navigator certification is very specific to people who want to lead in the world of Agile. I want to be able to assess Agile maturity and understand where the firm is at and where teams are at. So you can go to agileprinciple.com to check that out. But jumping into what is on this exam, it's broken into 4 domains: mindset, which is Agile mindset, leadership, product, and delivery. Let's jump in real quick. In PMI's usual style, they've got tasks and enablers. So the domain one, the mindset domain, this is all about the agile principles and the values and about how to apply them. So first task is about early experimentation. This is the hallmark of Agile. You build an increment, you introduce it into the world of the customer, you get feedback, you innovate, you improve, right? Task 2 is embracing an agile mindset, understanding that it's all about the customer. That's our highest priority. And we always want to put individuals and interactions first over processes and tools. There's some additional terminology here that you need to know. like Stacy model, Stacy matrix, a Cinefin model, and so on. Task 3 is promoting collaborative team environments, which makes sense in the world of Agile. It's all about the team. Task 4 is about being transparent, making status, progress, process, and all that accessible to all. Task 5 is about psychological safety. You want it to be a safe space. So you will get questions that test you on what will your actions be if a team member did X or Y. And you have to understand the best option is the one that helps people feel safe psychologically. Task 6, shorten feedback loops as opposed to big or long loops like in the world of predictive. We would rather use shorter loops so that we can not only maximize value but also get feedback ASAP. Task 7 is about embracing change, which is a hallmark of Agile. Going over to domain 2, leadership. Leadership in the world of Agile is decentralized. It's different from the world of predictive, where it's generally centralized, centered around the project manager. But in this world, everyone is looked at as a leader. Now, looking at you as an Agile practitioner who may be in other environments that are more hybridized or are more project focused but Agile, the Agile practitioner should possess necessary skills and knowledge to effectively lead within an Agile team. But at the same time, we got to understand that it's not about us. It's about us making people feel comfortable to step out and lead, to make a collaborative team environment. So, task 1 is about empowering the team, understanding that you hired bright people, they can get it done, they can lead themselves. In the world of Agile, we talk about the mutual accountability society, kind of joke about that because everyone's accountable to everyone else. Okay. All right. Task 2, facilitate problem resolution. So even though we're in the world of Agile, you still need to have a cause and effect mindedness so that you understand the root cause of an impediment and you're able to resolve it with the team. Knowledge sharing is big in the world of Agile. Things like communities of practice, uh, retrospectives, these are ways that you can share knowledge. There's also a concept called the skills marketplace, where as opposed to going out to get training, if we can get trained in house, we want to. So these are all ideas we espouse in the world of Agile. Task 4, promoting an Agile mindset, the principles and the practices. This is something that you would do as an Agile practitioner, as a leader. You would lead a charge, you'd recognize, you would celebrate, and you would encourage Agile behavior. Task 5, promoting shared vision and purpose. So, your role as a practitioner and as a leader, because in a lot of organizations, you might be the very first Scrum Master or the very first Agile champion. So, promoting shared vision and purpose is something you want to espouse. Facilitating conflict management, helping people to understand there's nothing wrong in conflict if it's effectively managed. In fact, constructive disagreement constantly is a hallmark of a mature Agile team. That takes us to domain 3, product. So, in the world of Agile, when we talk about products, the product backlog is the first thing that comes to mind, as well as the product owner. And Agile practitioners are expected to have this deep understanding of how things should work: Scrum, Kanban, Lean, and you should be able to apply that to your projects. And you will be tested on Lean. You'll be tested on the 7 wastes in some instances. So make sure you look up the 7 wastes and how that applies, right? Just Google Tim Wood or Tim Woods 7 wastes Lean. It'll come up with some good ideas for you. All right. So task 1, you got to refine the product backlog. Just makes sense. And this is really what the product owner and the team will do, right? You decompose the backlog items. We've got the product, epic, feature, story, task hierarchy. So as you're refining the backlog, you're breaking down items, you're clarifying them, You might even be involved in some estimating of the items. Some teams may not do the estimating, they may not do planning poker, but for your exam, you better know planning poker. You better know what it means. You better understand affinity estimating and the method, what exactly is done, you know. Manage increments, ensure the increment is aligned with business priorities. You know what happens after the increment is produced, then you have the sprint review, you have the retrospective after. Visualize the work, educate work visualization techniques, establish a process to update the data and the stats, and manage value delivery. In the world of Agile, it's all about value, value, value. So define what value will look like. You got to define the success criteria. On a smaller level, you got to define acceptance criteria for every story, but you also need to understand the definition of done, concepts like the definition of ready. If we're talking about a product backlog, you got to make sure that before the work is actionable, it is independent and negotiable, and it is indeed value. And while a lot of mature teams may take the INVEST acronym trivially or not look at it as being much value, younger teams, new teams, this could really help them firm up their user stories or their requests in their backlog, whatever those may look like. So make sure your user stories are independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small enough to fit within a sprint, and testable. All right, we're on to the final one. The final one is delivery. Agile practitioners should have the necessary skills and knowledge to effectively manage and deliver projects and products and value using agile approaches. The candidate should have strong communication and collaboration skills to work effectively with cross functional teams. And also, the agile practitioner should have a strong commitment to continuous learning and improvement. So, when we're talking about delivery, seek early feedback, evaluate customer satisfaction. This is good. This mindedness is going to be tested. Seek feedback now or seek feedback later. Now is always better. Manage agile metrics. So, whatever metrics you're working on, just understand the why behind the metric, whether it is lead time, cycle time, completed versus committed, whether it's velocity. Understand that velocity should not be used as a penalty stick, right? So, use metrics for decision making and to get insights, but not to punish the team. Manage impediments and risk. Impediments, obstacles, and blockers are as a result of realized risks. So those need to be managed. We talk about the risk adjusted backlog, that concept. You got to understand that for task 3. Task 4, recognize and eliminate muda, waste. We hate waste in the world of Agile. Waste makes us unagile. So our goal is to remove the waste. You got to understand this concept, which is why I want you to read up the 7 wastes, read up about lean. It's going to help you on the exam in the long run. Task 5, perform continuous improvements. We're just talking about Kaizen here. Kaizen is a continuous cycle of improvement, just means change for the better. So you get metrics, you get feedback, you continuously improve. As with everything, even at work, your boss gives you a review, it's feedback, you put it back into your work, back into production, you do better, right? And that's how we see this world here as well. Task 6, actively engage stakeholders, actively engage customers. Identify and analyze the customer and their need, validate that the iteration meets the acceptance criteria, and encourage collaboration. Now, beyond the definition of done, we have the acceptance criteria for each story that has to be in line. Okay, task 7, optimal flow. You got to limit work in progress. So, talking about Kanban, I talked about this in part 1 a couple of hours ago. And I said, when you are in the world of Kanban, you got to make sure that you limit your WIP. Limiting your WIP is important, limiting your work in progress. Because if you don't limit your WIP, you find that you're doing too many things and nothing gets done. So, as we say in Kanban, stop starting, start finishing. All right, task 7. Optimize flow. So, what else do we mean when we say you got to optimize the flow? We want to shield the team from interruptions. Some people feel the team, they're not babies, they can do this themselves. Well, some people forget that teams are at different levels. There was a post very recently that said, well, all this talk about the scrum master defending the team, they're not invalids, they can do it themselves. And I just felt that person was going off on a rabbit trail. Here it is on the exam anyway. whether whether that person agrees or not, it's there. So you got to understand that that's part of your role as a scrum master. Shield the team from interruptions. It's been that way for forever. There's some things it's just not worth arguing about. And then use metrics to analyze and improve the flow, lead time, cycle time, things like that. Okay, and then you got a whole bunch of tools and techniques. I would highly recommend reading these. We go over these in agileprinciple.com. Agile analysis and design, agile estimation tools, communication tools like information radiators, metrics such as velocity, lead time, as I mentioned, defect rates, even earned value management. You got to understand earned value management, EVM, is really all about the budgeted cost of work performed. So you got to understand that metric. So if you're asked to calculate CPI or SPI for an agile project, you got to understand what that means. So the number of story points that you said you would do versus the number of story points you actually did do, that's a metric, and so on and so forth. So I would advise you to open up the Agile Practice Guide, get a little bit into the EVM piece there. You very well could get a question on that on the exam. Planning, monitoring, and adapting metrics, process improvement metrics, product quality, risk management, value-based prioritization, all of these tools and techniques. Highly advise you go through them with a fine-tooth comb. Leave no stone unturned. If you get into a brick wall and you feel I don't understand what this is, remember you got AI. AI is your friend. And that takes us to the close-out slide. We got a close-out slide for the world of artificial intelligence and agile. I shared a little bit of it with you in the beginning, but now I'm going to share the rest. Okay, this is going to go very quick, I promise. We're going to be done in about a minute. Okay, here we go. All right, so how can AI help agile leaders lead better? Simple things. Better situational awareness. Detect early signs of dysfunction by feeding your AI tool with the right data. Aggregate team signals like velocity, sentiment, and quality. And lead with empathy and evidence as a result of the analyses you do with AI. Could also help you enhance your decision making. You could simulate outcomes of scope, resource, backlog changes, and just lead with transparency and strategic clarity. You'll be amazed if you ask the AI tool, coach me so that I can be better. You'll get personalized coaching, learning resources. It will also give you ideas about your facilitation style, and it will enable you to encourage adaptive and reflective leadership. All right. Those are just a few ideas I wanted to share with you, my friends. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you, and I wish you all the very best as you get ready for your ACP, you get ready for your CAPM, your PMP, whatever you're working on. If you have any questions, please drop them below. Even if I see them after the fact, I'll come back on and I'll answer them. I've got a couple more days to the 25th of June, which is my PMP anniversary. So thank you very much. I wish you all the very best. Thank you once again, Jumoke. If you end up watching this, do send that email. I look forward to speaking to you all soon.